Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So Craig is the reason why we're all here, right? It was your idea, to really kind of start these culture first communities. And what's really great is, yeah, I mean, it tends to be a lot of HR folks, but it's a lot of people who are not HR folks who are just super passionate about workplace culture. And that's what this is really all about. So obviously today, this is what we're going to talk about. And I apologize. Does anyone else have this issue that anytime they have a name tag on, it just like goes with your hair? So it may be anywhere by the end of tonight. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So pretty straightforward, right? So I'll go over our core principles, and then we'll get right into that panel discussion, which I know y'all are waiting for anyway. We will answer your questions, be able to chat throughout this. Feel free, to get some more food or drink. And we'll kind of round it up out. We'll leave some time at the end for networking again. We've just got some really amazing people here today. So really excited to get you all connected to each other. Okay, so our core principles, right? Foster belonging and acceptance. That's a really, really core piece of this. That's why we really love the diverse, groups of people, different professions that come to these types of events. And we often hear people say, oh, these are my people, right? Because there's so many different networking events in the area. And it's really nice to just actually connect, have real conversations. And so we definitely want to be a part of fostering that. Be willing to reflect and grow. Remember, growing is often not comfortable. So if you are, if you do have some discomfort, lean into that, right? It is all about, us exploring other ideas that we might not have thought of on our own and other perspectives on culture. And how can we make a really great place to work for everybody? So everyone can thrive no matter what organization they're at, no matter what level they're at in the organization. Have the courage to be vulnerable. Definitely encourage you to do that. We will try to role model that up here. We hope you'll feel comfortable doing that as well. None of us have all the answers, to be very clear. I mean, these three have a lot, but none of us have all the answers. And I bet a lot of you all have some great answers that we don't have. So please, speak up. If you have other ideas or other perspectives on it, we definitely want to hear it. And we want you to feel comfortable sharing it. Putting learning into action. So one of the big things here is we have a really strong perspective that we never want you to walk away from any of these learning sessions being like, oh my God, that was so great. Well, now what do I do? Right? Like we want you to walk away with at least one kind of key action you can take in whatever organization you're at, or even if, if you're an independent, whatever it is, knowing that you got something out of it that you can then apply is really important to us. And remember, it's always all the little, incremental actions that lead to something bigger. So, even if you can't kind of change the course of your entire organization, one small action can be a really important part of building a better culture. And then connection inside, business outside. So of course we want you to network, connect, all of that. We just ask that you really are all about the connection in here. Go ahead and connect on LinkedIn, all of that. Just no selling, right? We want this to be about genuine conversation, really building strong relationships and getting to know each other. So with that, okay. So I'd like to call my panel up. Let me just grab my moderator thing here. Okay, so we've got, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to chat with these three. We've got Teedra, who balances innovation and swag like no other. You cannot beat her sneaker collection, okay? So yeah, there's a lot we're gonna learn from her. We've got Tushar, a guru in scaling and enabling tech startups and passionate about transportation. Doesn't matter if it's car, plane, he loves it. Okay, so talk to him about any type of transportation. Why are all the planes crashing? Okay. You can answer that by the end of this. I think we're good. And then we've got Craig, right? So he told you about, former camper extraordinaire, founder of Culture C Consulting, and Harvard professor, no big deal. So we're really thrilled to have all of you here today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the slideshow so that way the camera will just focus on the panel. Give me 1 minute. Okay. I feel like I should have brought hold music, so just like as I was going back and forth. Yes. Yeah. All right. What's that? Oh yeah, we'll just. All right, y'all know who I am. Come find me afterwards if you don't. Okay, so we are going to get into this. All right. Can each of you share what first drew you to this work and what continues to inspire you today? We'll start with Teedra. I saw you were like, oh, I definitely want to answer that. Just, yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, sorry. Yes. Official. Hi, everybody. What's up? I have to say, one of the things that I always struggle with panels is I have notes in my formal presentation, and then it goes out the window, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. So what got me into this work is my dad actually was an HR leader for GM. And he joined as a plant manager and worked his way up to the corporate offices in Detroit. So that was my first taste of HR. I used to attend the Take Your Daughter to Work Day. And that is when I got sucked in and never looked back. So that is the original story of where HR came from for me. And then obviously I've done many things in between there and actually took a stint outside of HR. But I think what keeps us here is this connection. I really like people. I like to see people grow in their careers. We're going to talk about culture and what that really means right now because it's a little ignorant. And we got to get honest about where we're going and the expectations of employers and employees. But that's why I'm in it, because I'm committed. I do things with a full butt, not a half butt. And I think that there's opportunity for us, whether you're HR or business, that we have an opportunity to make a difference here. So that's why I stay committed. And I want to see a new definition of C-suite. I want to see leaders who look like me, who can come in and wear Jordans and still provide strategic insight, who can deliver results regardless of how my hair is, what I have on, and be able to apply that. So that's my intent and why I actually stay.
Awesome. Craig.
So I'm so happy we got to meet and all this. I got to meet you a while ago, and I'm so happy to be here with the two of you. I'm going to answer this in three quick parts. I think about first when I was young, I didn't have a traditional path. Matter of fact, my parents split. I moved around a lot, and I think culture at some level, if I went into more detail, was kind of a survival mechanism. I loved people. I moved a lot, so I had to kind of like fit in and had lots of jobs, and in restaurants and hospitality, and I worked at summer camps, all the types of jobs. And I think early on, probably because of my own challenge. Matter of fact, if I was to I passed the belonging badges and I was going to write one in and I didn't do it, but mine would be ADHD. I know that now, and I've learned that about myself and what that means. But I look back and all the challenges and trying to figure out where I fit. But I think there was I'd have these moments where I would be in some sort of work environment where it was clicking, where it was like the team was clicking and the outcome was clicking. And I always sat and I felt like there's this world saying you're not supposed to have fun or performances, about hard work. And I just think I sat early with this juxtaposition of why. Why is that? Is that the case? And I felt like somewhere in me, I felt like people can be happy and organizations can thrive. And why shouldn't we be striving for that? So I think that was this early nugget. The second piece was, I clearly, went in the military. I eventually went back I got my undergrad in business and then got a master's in org psych. So something was pulling me. But the next piece was, I think, when it came together, I got clear on my purpose and really did personal work. And matter of fact, didn't even share this with the world for many years, but it was to help the world work better by improving the places we work. Like literally before my career kind of took a different turn, I got clear. And I think that's important, at least for me. And what I share is just, that's been the beacon and the North Star of like whatever decision I made after that. I didn't need to be the boss. I didn't need the title. I wanted to do that thing. And something shifted in my career at that point. And then that put me on this journey. Tech picked up in the Bay Area. I started riding with HR tech companies and eventually landed at Culture Amp in 2017. And I think that the third part of the story of why I do it and why I keep doing it, there was that love and that passion that led me. But when I started working with organizations with a tool like Culture Amp or those sorts of tools, and was watching, like, to this day, the light bulbs go off when leaders finally had contextualization around making sense. I mean, oftentimes, like, one of the things I've been talking a lot about is to leaders, you know these answers. It's not that you don't know. And it's not that that's a problem. You know lots of things. You don't have a lot of context to help you decide where to focus and how and where to place those bets. And I think working at Culture Amp and using those tools and seeing how powerful that was in organizations, I started to feel more and more responsibility. Like when I hear a company's not listening and doesn't use data and makes the solution decisions before they have any reason why, and the stuff I've seen along the way and what leaders think versus what people think, and you're making decisions and you have no data, it doesn't feel responsible. So I think what drives me at this point is this deep love that I have for the space, but this thing that I've found to help organize, it's the best solution I've found, that they can solve the problems when they understand. And that's my life's work now, is helping organizations run these engagement programs, listening programs, and performance management programs to just get this in order, because, you know, there's a lot of harm happening by not, and the leaders oftentimes don't see that harm. So that's what keeps me going today and why I'm doing this work.
To go after you now. Oh, great. Oh, all right. Well, appreciate all of you coming out. Certainly on an evening when most of the folks either are thinking about bar time, dinner time, so appreciate that. Very similarly, I would say 3 core things. The first, and it still is probably my internal flame for myself, and that is, at the end of the day, people make companies. It's not a PC. It is not a Mac. It is not your technologies. It is not your platforms. Those are all enablers. The strategies, the creativity, the solutions, the dealing with customers, each other, it's people. At the end of the day, that's what makes a company thrive. So keeping that flame always going on, that it's about the people at the end of the day. Secondly, I would also say for me, there has always been this responsibility that you already talked about, because at some point in time, so many of us either have an accent or happen to be an immigrant or part of an immigrant family. And I've always committed to myself that if we can start to pave the way for others who are in similar boats, because we all walk in shoes, that becomes the journey that we have to walk ahead. And so how do we try to create those paths, acknowledging that they're going to be obstacles? That's why you stay committed to the work we do. And third and final thing, and this is probably the coach in me that comes out along with the leadership development, helping everyone, especially as leaders, to understand you've got a shadow and be vulnerable. The sooner and faster you make those your assets, the quicker you're going to be as a successful individual, personally and professionally. Far too much work is not done about talking about the shadow and being vulnerable with your teams, with your peers, including the C-suite. The more you do that, the better off you're going to be. And so that's the reason why I continue to stay committed to this work that we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really takes inspiration to stay in it as long as you all have, because as we all know, this work, it's a lot, right? So with that, what are your hot takes on what's happening right now in workplace culture? What should we all be paying attention to over the next 1 to 3 years? So I'm gonna let you breathe a little bit. Why don't we, I think Craig, like you were like, please give me this one. So Craig, you're gonna start, and then we'll go to Tushar and Teedra.
So hot takes. It's funny when I want to say this first one, my first thing is like, everybody when AI comes up is like, oh, broken record, but like, sorry, I think there's so many things to talk about around it, and part of me wants to be like, oh, I don't want to say that, everybody talks about it, but I think today the hot take is the breakneck speed that I think we're just about to enter a period that nobody's used to, and the speed at change. I'm an optimist. I do think that there's things we don't see that is coming, but I also see some immediate things I think are going to happen fast. So, and I think people in this room that care about this space are going to be put in really tough positions, that you're going to be asked to both usher this in. And I just saw recent research that said it's, like one of the biggest fears of HR people is that AI is going to replace my job. So essentially, people in this space are both going to be asked to bring this in to leverage this in organizations while also grappling with the reality that it's going to impact jobs. You're probably going to be laying people, like all the things that you don't want to do, and it's all going to be mixed together. And again, why do we need each other? You know, I think it's nobody knows these answers, but the speed of what it's going to happen and the questions that are going to come up. So I think it's how do we prepare ourselves for that? So that's a hot take. Is it's just another person saying, just be prepared, lean in if you're not, push yourself to lean in further, understand what's coming, think about what parts of jobs are the things that if something could watch over and over, it's done over and over, and which parts about your job, about the people around you that are these unique things that people bring, because I think that's what this world's going to is, you know, revenge of the creatives. Who's the most creative? Who can think, who can connect the dots? Who can ask the best prompt? Who can put the dots together and not who can crunch a number, you know, or who can come up with a policy. So I just think that we're going to see a lot of change there. I also think, I was thinking about this, and the other one that came up was, I think the way I put it was the traditional thinking about like how historically we've used motivation, how we motivate one another in the organizations. We've had a lot of systems that have just been built in about how we come together, how we work, that are gone. I mean, I was up at Acuity Insurance this week, is one of the reasons we're here. It couldn't be more in person than this company, this big facility that was built for thousands of people in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where people are local. And on Monday, it was pretty much empty. On Tuesday, it started to pick up. Like it's this is about as in person as it gets, and we're still seeing this mix. So this idea of you're always seeing your people and how we motivate through in-person things and command and control, it's not there. So that leans to I think the work that I do believe in was we as organizations do need to get better at listening. And when I say listening, at scale and faster, and being responsive and iterative to our organizations. You can't just wing it and think you had the right conversation anymore. So it's like these organizations are gonna have to get better at how are we listening, again, in dispersed ways where people are in different places across all kinds of new things, and respond. Like I listen, we hear, we adapt. We listen, we hear, we adapt. And I think that's the best way as we're getting ready to go through rapid transformation, that iterative and responsive process is going to have to be stronger in organizations. So I think those are my two big hot takes.
Right. Well, it's interesting because you've already talked about AI, and I would absolutely second that. The way I'm seeing what's happening, and it's already taking place, is that culture 3.0, as I'm calling it, right or wrong, is in the making. So what do I mean by that? Culture 1.0 was really when we turned around and said values, culture, behaviors, right? Fairly straightforward. That started to gain momentum, which is pretty much the core foundation for most of our organizations. Then came 2.0, which is really embracing and making sure that we were hiring based on those values, we were evaluating based on those values, we were developing, so on and so forth. Well, what is this 3.0 that we are saying with regards to what culture is going to be? So start visualizing this. You are actually having a meeting with a collaborator who happens to be an avatar. You may be in glasses and you're asking in this meeting, oh, by the way, what about that code? And how is that going to be tied to our revenue forecast? And you're getting things verbalized back to you because Gen AI is already happening. And by the way, there may be 5,000 JIs in a company because every single team, every single function, and for the very first time, perhaps in the entire organizational culture globally, we can actually say that we are all built AI from scratch. Now, for a few of us who have been around, good or bad, 1990s, 2000s, globalization started. You were born global. Then came offshoring. Then came cloud. And there were stages. There were hierarchies. Usually sales gets first, revenue then, and then marketing, and then finance. AI, straight across every team. So my prediction in this, right or wrong, someone will remind me to eat my words in 2 years, and I will do so if I have to, is every company's culture is going to be this umbrella called artificial intelligence. You can name it whatever you want. It's going to be sales insights, finance insights, supply chain insights, operations insights, HR insights. So to Craig's point over here, Every single team is going to now have to be the master of their artwork and is going to have to come and speak to it based completely to show insights are happening. HR is not going to be given the chance to say, well, we are going to let sales and we'll have to do this, or we'll have to wait until we get. That is not happening because right now there are well over 300 AI solutions just in the space of HR happening. From talent acquisition to compensation to development, right down to online available operational coaching for first level leaders tied to the one-on-ones. So this is already happening. It's not coming, it's already happening. It's in our environments. How we have to try to help everyone is getting ready for this is going to be the ask. Bain just released their paper 2 weeks ago. AI has to be led by HR, not the CTO, not the CIO, not the CEO. CEO and boards are looking at the CPO and the team and saying, you need to start making this a new DNA, and you have to get people ready. And it's not about getting everyone to go and learn how to code on Python. I always said this. It's about the story I started with, getting people used to, you're working with an avatar, you're working with technologies, your collaboration and empathy skill sets are going to have to go up the roof. The insights are going to be done for you automatically through the technology. So to me, that's the world we are living in, and we have more work to do because it's just not going to go away. There's far too much investment. So even if anyone is thinking it's going to go away, they're already hitting the trillion level. So when investors play the game, as we know, they're going to get an ROI.
All you.
Unpopular opinion. I think it's overhyped. I think I just read a stat that said only 5% of organizations actually really using AI. So I'm a fan of actually, I use it every day, personally, professionally. But I think there's a reality check, and I want to just set the stage, because right now, most people are drowning in work. They're overworked. They have too many things that are going on. They need to hire people. Hiring is froze. There's uncertainty with the government. All these things are happening. So the last thing you're telling me, now I got to go learn a new skill. Yes, that is true. You do have to learn a new skill. But I think the reality is it is not replacing anybody's jobs from this perspective. It gives us an opportunity to think about things differently. And I think that the opportunity we have to be able to strategically bring it into our organization is fine. But I think right now, the way people are living and the way people are functioning, they're burnt out. They're disengaged. And that is the reality. We're going through the great disengagement right now, where people are not even quitting. They've quit from their jobs, but they're still working. That's bad. So before we get Skynet going, because I'm really nice to my AI, just in case when it happens, I really want them to be really nice to me. I want to focus in on what's currently happening right now. And both things can be true. I think that is the reality that we are currently facing. People are uncertain about their careers. That is a reality. So how can we enable our teams? How can we get people focused on the mission? How can we take all these fancy things that he just said and say, how do we able to learn from that perspective? I think we need to do both. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this, but okay, thank you. I got one over there. I think that is the reality of what we are facing right now. We have managers who have teams who are just uncertain about their jobs. That is real. And I want to change that and have the opportunity to say, how do we take this technology? How do we get leaders to say HR should be the people investing in it? And it is going to take a requirement. It's going to take extra effort from us. But I also just want to be a reality checker on where we are and where your teams are, and they're feeling behind this. Now, my next question before we go into hot drops, what is culture? Give me a word. Because I think everybody has a different definition of what culture is. And I love to and there's no wrong answer, I promise you. You'll get fake points from me, maybe a button. Go for it. How we do what we do. You get a fake 5 points. Ooh, okay. This is the key word, productivity. We're going to talk to that later. Ooh, come on. Did y'all hear that?
Say it again.
Say that one more time louder.
Worst behaviors you tolerate.
Now we're talking. That's culture. And culture is great when things are well, when revenue's up, earnings are great. Talk to me when things are not well. That's when culture shows up. That's the meetings in between the rooms, the secrets and how leaders are treating employees behind the scenes. That's culture. That right there, that's what I want to get into. I think we all know the surface level culture stuff, and I don't think anyone's here for that conversation. I think we're here to call the elephant in the table, room, whatever it's called, and then be able to come up with some solutions behind it too as well. Okay, one more answer for culture. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
true. Following. Mm. Mhm. Yeah. That's
Signing you up for a retreat, which is in the back at the end of the evening. That we'll be signing you up for our retreat in the back at the end of the evening.
it's a really interesting conversation. Like we just had so many different answers of what culture is. Go for it. Yeah, please. How leaders behave. It does.
Can I jump in real quick? Just I'm so happy you're doing this because you're absolutely right. No, you're what you just brought up, and so many times when I've talked to groups, I always start by starting here, because how can we have this conversation without even like benchmarking this and at least having a shared agreement? So the one that's worked for me, it sounds like we have some around here, is the way we do things around here. I always just hold that one, and I also don't hold judgment. I think some people think it's ping pong. I was in the military. The military has a culture, there's culture in a prison. Like, culture happens everywhere. It happens in an organization. It happens at our churches and where we worship, in our families. Then I also say we have organizational culture. So let's break this apart. A group of people are coming together to share and achieve mission. What's the way we do things around here? If you're the 82nd Airborne Division and the mission is to get 70,000 people anywhere in the world in 24 hours, which is their mission, you don't sit around and talk about how you think we should do it and how do you feel about that. You train, you have rigor, everybody has a bag packed. Like, that's that culture. So I often go with organizations of, what are you trying to achieve? And let's back the right culture, the way we do things in here, around here, to what you're trying to achieve, not what one guy at the top says that everybody should be in their seats. Like, what? So I'm always trying to reframe it that way. And just going back to, I don't judge it as good or bad. How do we do things around here, and how in an organization do we work with that to achieve this thing? Because we'll all go away if this doesn't succeed. My family doesn't disappear if we have a poor culture, but my workplace does.
That's a well way to put it. My not well way to put it is it's the vibe check.
Too, I like that.
Check. And you guys know that when you're having these kind of meetings and you guys look around, that one person's talking, like, oh, here he goes. There's Bob. Bob's acting up, and we allow it. We tolerate it. And I think that the reality is we're in an environment now where during COVID and pre-COVID, it was employees first. What can we do to make sure our employees are safe, they're taken care of, work from anywhere, doesn't matter, all the good stuff. And now we're in this environment where transformation is happening. Work needs to get done faster, better, which we can use AI for that. But I wouldn't put it as employees first just yet right now. And that's okay, because it's a cyclical thing. If you look at corporate America, it happens, and this is where we're at. I think the reality is culture is still going to matter no matter what. We just have to prove the value to the businesses. And even sometimes our value creation is based off this right now. They don't care about the programs and the let's go play ping pong. They're like, how are we getting results right now? And that's what matters. And that is the reality of what we're facing. And it would go back. But I think that that's the thing that we need to discuss in terms of culture and how we deliver for real results. So I went off topic. The one key thing I think we need to watch out is kill the fake wellness programs. Just one.
We had to just pay me more from the back.
Yeah, I'm like, it's great that you're offering these workout classes, but I'm working 16 hours a day. That's not helping me. Let's get real about where we're trying to do and what our employees need, which requires active listening. But don't listen if you're not going to do nothing about it. Because trust is the foundation of all culture. So I'm sorry. I'm
No, when you said about, I want to be careful because you're absolutely right. Unless maybe, and my job is to be, I'm doing a job where I need to be physically active, and we have a program that makes sure all of our people are in shape. It goes back to why do we do it? Don't give me a wellness program when nobody here really cares about a wellness program. Give me a wellness program if everybody needs to be in certain physical shape, or it's a doctor or pilot or whatever. I don't know. Connect it to the reason. Don't just do it because. And to your point, why are we doing what we're doing, and how are we listening and making sense in a quantifiable way?
Well, you just said it, right? Are you asking and meeting people where they want to be? This has not been, it's not even so much about the AI aspect of it or wellness, right? I mean, even if you take wellness, you can go and ask 5 people in the same thing, and you'll get 5 different answers of what wellness is all about. Your wellness could be very different from my wellness. And the first thing usually we do is, when was the last time anyone asked me this? Like, I mean, it's a simple thing, and we used to do this still very much so. And I'm sure we'll get some feedback over here. But there used to be a thing that on an annual basis, we would ask our people, are you getting the value of the benefits that we're serving? When was the last time anyone ran a benefit survey? We haven't either. And we come from a wellness company. So there's some vulnerability right there. My point in all of this is that we have taken things in so far extreme in most things, whether it is employee-centric first, employer-centric brand, everything has become so far, either left or right. And we are not touching politics. I'm just talking about just general operations, how we approach things, instead of bringing it back and saying, what's the balance? What are we looking to achieve, and how can we make this happen? Part of all of this also, and you're right, there are many things that we all are doing. People are exhausted. People are tired. Resource constraints are a reality. Everything is about growth right now. We know this, and it's not coming back. But when you talk about it, it's what we, at least how we are doing it at Spins, and it could be completely different. As we know that this is happening, we've actually started about wanting to come back and bring back fun. So when we started this entire AI journey, we started it actually by doing, hey, we guys are actually going to sit down over here and create 3D avatars. That's how we're going to start. We're going to get everyone comfortable with this. And we brought out the simple things about bringing out swag. I cannot tell you how many people in our company still want the t-shirt that says, don't talk to me until I've had my data. Get it? Don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. Those simple things are what matters. And when you are now meeting and working with every single individual as that whole person, tell us what you like about it. Tell us what you don't like about it. What's your fear? How do we help? I think that is being the connection that we are walking away with, that it took me some time after getting some feedback in saying, you know what? We forgot every person counts, at least for us. And we are bringing that back in because we want to make sure that that is the culture that's driving it forward, irrespective of what happens, whether it's going to be tech savvy or non-tech savvy. We are PE backed. We've got all of those requirements. But the more we can say that every person counts, we need to do more of this, which you're spot on.
The vulnerability, because you're saying, hey, we didn't get it right. I have one more too. I think the people-related process needs to match the culture values. My meaning behind this is you can't say we give empowerment to our employees and it takes 30 steps, 30 approvals to approve something. It has to match. And I think when I think about how do you solve this and how we can walk away as action steps, those types of things are embedded in our culture. And so even thinking from a mundane task of saying, does this match our culture? Are we giving ownership and onus to our employees and our managers, or are we creating a bottleneck? That's a reality check. And to say, you know what, we're going to change something based off of us listening to you because we took your information. We hired Culture Amp and did something with it, and be able to have those reality conversations and trust that we're going to do something about it. That's one thing I would like to see as a trend of saying, let your process match your values. That's what get a t-shirt.
Yeah. So
I would love to also hear what they want to.
So I would just add on to that.
Yeah.
So in IO psychology, we talk about I can't think right now, high performance work systems, right? That's literally just where the people strategy matches the growth strategy. And within that, all of the different programs, right, match that and match the values. So it is that alignment.
Yeah.
So absolutely spot on. And I would say along those lines, you know, when you think about hiring, don't hire for the culture of today, hire for the culture that you want, where you're going, right? Don't just hire a bunch of people who are like you, who think like you. Hire for what's going to make your organization grow, right? Hire for that culture enhancement, and hire liberal arts majors. I will die on that hill. Hire liberal arts majors because critical thinking skills are going to be they're going to be very hard to find very soon. And where can you find those? Liberal arts majors. Okay, sorry. Okay, going on to the next question. Okay, so I know you all started giving some pieces of advice, but anything else you want to add as far as advice you would give to practitioners working to build stronger cultures today? So who wants to start?
Here we go. I would say that it's as simple as it is, but it is extremely difficult to do. Because at the end of the day, especially, it's one thing about matching it. And matching is a first step to me, at least. Living not only those values, living those behaviors day in and day out. We all know we've had to have some tough discussions as well, right? So how do we demonstrate those behaviors by living it? Whether it is the new talent we are bringing on board, whether it is all the leaders in at our organization that we are trying to help develop onto the next career pathing. How do we make sure, right? It's going on right now, especially with the high interest rates. How many of us have had to reduce spend on programs? That's a reality of the world we are living in. How many of those have been directly impacted with training and leadership development? If you are in HR, if you are in leadership, chances are there's a very good chance that you are committed to this work and you want to continue to do this because of that element of it. Because none of us are born leaders. We may have traits of them, but we're going to have to develop those. Those competencies need to become part of who we are. These are the things. So when you see those going away, and there's a business reason for that, to Teedra's earlier point, now you're going to get those questions. And you're going to have to face people eye to eye. And do not try to give an answer that's going to be politically correct. Do not try to give an answer that's going to make the company look good. Just be genuine and authentic. And people will not like you for what you have to say as long as they respect you. That's the hard part. And that is going to still continue on, certainly for the next 24 to 36 months.
Oh, can I ask you guys a question? How many of you actually have decision-making rights or influence over your company's culture? That's going to depend on my answer to this. Okay, influence. Okay, I think, I'm a realist. I think the greatest opportunity we have to help with culture is our people leaders. Most of what employees experience through our organization are people leaders. I know a couple organizations are cutting out the middleman and all that good stuff, but most organizations are not going that route. And that's where we have the greatest opportunity and also the greatest failure if we let it go. So I think if you want to get strategic and if you want to get your biggest bang for the buck, we go after supporting our people leaders, make them advocates, make them guardians of it, give them realistic training, but also give them space to be able to have time to do this. That, I think, does not require investing in significant amounts of technology, significant amounts of training. It really is getting to where the interactions happen the most. They are the translators of all the corporate speak for executives. That is the opportunity where I think culture really lies and where I think we have a greatest impact. I don't know if that is something that you guys are already done, but I think that that's an opportunity that we lose our sight of, and I would love to have more of that. People managers.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the questions. But so I answer this. I was thinking about this question, and I just thought I broke into 3 buckets. One is what advice would I say to an individual, as an individual, teams, and then organizationally, around this, like, being culture influencers. How can we change culture? I think at the individual level, what I'd say to everybody is really do a real assessment of the part of your work that you do that you've gotten used to. It's been what you call your job. That's just kind of repeatable, that, is ultimately will become, I think, lower value, which is fine. But also on the flip side, what's that thing that's uniquely you in your work? Are you an amazing facilitator and you love to build trainings? Do you get policy inside and out and you love to advise leaders? That thing that's really hard to replace, that's uniquely you. And I would say lean into that and develop that. I really do believe no matter which direction this goes, I'm already seeing how when we're getting called in, the stories often, our HR team is shrunk. You know, we have the HR business partners. They're busy doing all the other things. We just need this expertise here now. And I think there's gonna be more of that. And so what I'm saying is, I think everybody at least hedge the fact that like build that thing that's uniquely you, that you uniquely bring to culture. Some people are more truly analytic. Like I'm more of a contextualizer, but some people love to think about numbers and crunch them in certain ways. Like, but just ask yourself, is this something that's like uniquely me that's going to bring that creative value in a way that nobody else can bring it to the world? So that would, I'd say, individually. On the teams, again, without all the fancy whatever, I would just say, like, look, I went on my own 2 years ago and I had no constraints, so I leaned into anything I could. And the one thing I did learn is the shocking productivity, and if you let yourself go, how much more we can do fast. So what I'd say on teams is not so much like deal with the fear, whatever, put it aside and say, okay, there are these things around us now. How can we take the same team and just make the output so much bigger, make it ourselves indispensable at what we're doing here, and not just keep trucking along? I think average is not going to cut it. So get the team stronger, get the team, use the tools around you to do things that maybe you couldn't do. You can do a lot faster now. How quickly you can write copy, content, market things, get things out, build a training. So I'd just say as teams, think, how can we use what's available to do more with less, and like claim your space in the organization and make an impact, which ties to the third one, the organizational level, is whatever's happening, why? What's the impact? Why do we make that decision? As much as you can, but that question needs to be asked. It's so shocking to me. I love this work, and it continues to see it. I work with the leadership teams, and it's like, but why are you doing that training? And how do you even show that that matters? So you're investing that. Why are you putting millions of dollars into redoing your comp program? Well, the score was low. Yeah, but the score's low everywhere, and it's a low driver of engagement. You know what really matters? Open and honest two-way communication. How much does that cost you? So, I mean, I'm just getting back to, I think all of us, if we're in organizations, keep asking why. It's possible. It's not that expensive. I think these are not, there's a saying I heard recently, I love it, that everybody wants to do something noble, but no one wants to be scrutinized along the way. And that, me too, right? And so do your leaders. Well, but he's not going to admit at you. Yeah. But so do your leaders. Like, they want to do good stuff, but everybody wants to get them to go to work and not be scrutinized and like somebody's, but like, I'm like, I don't care, because your decisions impact people's lives. Why? You wouldn't do it with sales. You wouldn't do it with marketing. Why are you doing that? So I think for all of us to just in our own way, keep pushing on before you come up with solutions. Do we have good understanding what's going on? Are we making calculated bets that we can go back to later and say, did we move the needle on the thing we set out to move? Because we believe that's the right thing to do, that will improve our workplace, or, our workers' motivation or engagement or what it might be. So those are those three tiers that I'm thinking about, that I'd say to anybody at those different levels.
All right. Really some phenomenal takeaways. So thank you all. We want to know your questions. We want to make sure that we're getting to what's on your mind. Okay. All right. Start here.
Thank you all for sharing your wisdom. My question is AI related. So many of us grew up early in our careers doing a lot of the grunt work, scheduling interviews, drafting policies, drafting job descriptions, right? And so much of this work is being automated now by AI. So my question is, in this new world, how do you bring early career talent up to speed when so many of those tasks are disappearing? And the second part of that question is, if early career jobs start disappearing, then how do you build future talent pipelines?
Yeah, that was an excellent question. Who wants to take that one?
Ray, I go ahead.
I'll just share a real story when we get into it that you had me think about. My nephew is amazing with math and science, and was this, always into computer science. He decided to go to college, went all the way through to his master's, and got a master's degree in computer science. And everybody's like, Tyler's oh my gosh, Tyler's just gonna walk out with a job. I mean, this story. We all know this story 4 years ago. He graduated a year ago and he doesn't have a job. Master's degree in computer science, that was gold 5 years ago. So I will just jump in and saying, I'll let somebody else take this, but this is real. And I think your question is spot on. That's one of the biggest areas I'm worried about. It's not those of us that have gotten to the place that we have the thing I was talking about, that they've figured out their unique thing that they bring to the world. I mean, who knew that when you were 21? Right? We all went up through
Still
this
don't
grunt
know.
work. I know.
Malavika, I think your question is not only spot on, but it's real as it gets with every single thing. And it's not only in HR, it's across the board, right? So where we are struggling as an organization, as we are hiring data scientists, right? So we go and speak to these young in careers. Now, to your point, again, very valid, a master's in computer science or anything software engineering, if you've got any friends, family, try to get them to convert ASAP. That is not the future
To a
that they
liberal
want to
arts
go.
major,
Try
right?
to do, yeah. Data science is a different world. There is a tremendous need globally so for that. So when you're speaking to these data scientist grads, right, the thing that they're turning around to us is exactly your question, but reversed around. Prove to me your culture is already ready to handle all of the stuff that I'm coming through, because especially the new generation, they've already grown up with this stuff. I mean, Generation Alpha that is still kids, they are graduating where they're going to ask these questions of the Gen Zs, and they're not going to have an answer for them because they're not going to tolerate what Gen Z is doing. Most of us have been around, we shake our heads. No idea. Our teams are sitting and saying, how do I answer this question? Because we still have to build it. They are not ready for it. What are we going to do when we can show them that the grunt work is being taken care of? But how are we going to show you the way? Because especially in HR, a lot of the stuff that we do is gray. It's not black and white. Yes, I mean, there's some things that are black and white. We all can know how to handle those. But what about the rest of the mentoring that we're going to have to do? What about the collaboration programs that we're going to have to create so we can help these individuals understand what is working, what isn't working, what are things that you're going to do? We haven't started focusing on any of that, and that will be the reality that is already hitting us. I don't have an answer because we're asking the same questions. It's one that needs to be asked not only in HR, though, across the board, because the expectation that is getting built out, the first level of the, just let's call it admin work, I won't call it grunt work, will no longer exist. Well, then how do you take someone to get them to the second or the third level immediately without experience?
I I have a perspective on it. I do think it's happening outside of just HR. You can probably do any industry and field and apply the early career. I think the reality is we got to think about undoing this traditional path. We were taught that you go to school, you go to college, you get a good job, you get 2.5 kids, you get married in a white picket fence. Our reality does not match that right now. And I think from my glass half full, there's opportunity, because in this type of environment, you breed entrepreneurs. You breed people who are like, I don't even want that. I don't want the 9 to 5. I want to go change the world and the paradigm shift. And I want to actually get to those students right now, because our pace of skill development versus talent needs are off. We're already off. That is the reality of it. We have government workers who are displaced, and there's opportunity. There's talent. The talent doesn't match the need. That's the problem that we have. And I think this is not a corporate America problem. This is a universal problem. We've got to get educators, elementary school. We've got to get politicians. We've got to get corporate America. We got to get billionaires to say, we're going to right this wrong, or everybody will be impacted. So that is the big picture solution. We got to think about this completely differently. I think the opportunity that we have right now is, I'm telling my niece, maybe you're not going to go to corporate America. Maybe your path may not look like mine. And that is okay, because I also want to ban what success looks like. Because success to me is freedom of time. That's a different, I'll get about it. But that is where I want to consider of, it's not corporate America's problem to solve, it's everybody's problem to solve. I see a lot of nodding heads, so y'all feeling me on this? Okay, good.
And the only one other thing I would just add to that is we also have to take that on responsibility for ourselves. You know, I still remember this, 2008.
What do you mean?
2008, we all knew what happened, right? And when a big company like GM declares bankruptcy, there was one statement that came out of that that still sticks with me. If GM can go bankrupt, the days of skill security, tenure security, all the securities were thrown out the door, and they've never entered back in. Do I look like I want to code Python? Heck no, even if someone's writing a big, nice check. I just don't have that desire. Do I just have to remind myself that I need to understand what and how I can be living in this world? Yes, that's what I mean by having some responsibility for ourselves. It doesn't mean you need to go and become the next MD or PhD, to your point. carve out and exactly what you want to do, but make sure that you're still keeping yourself in what is happening in the world.
Who's first? I couldn't see who.
Thank you so much. I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Malkova said, and you as well, Teedra and Tushar. It sounds as though history repeats itself. We have some natural cycles that we see. AI is an expansion of a toolkit. So, you know, automation scared everyone, but we took a while, still kinks in some corporate America and how it's employed. So as cultural leaders, and even in your careers, because you've both, all of you, I think, have hit on it to a degree, in these cycles of cultural pivots, where in the gray, and we can kind of feel the seismic shifts underneath us, we know kind of earthquakes are happening, we know changes upon us, where do you find the most kind of pragmatic places to anchor? So there is a lot of change. It is gray, it is scary, it is hard for people. Like if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's all gone out the window. So in those moments, if you are the cultural champions, the leads in these organizations, what are a couple of areas that you have either found that you're anchoring to now or that you have anchored in the past and you're revisiting?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think what it's funny, even we're all talking, like, I think we all have to hold space for contradicting ideas, multiple layers. I can sit with somebody and go on and on like the rest of us about how this thing goes to we're all extinct and it's awful and scary. And like, that's a real conversation. I mean, I'm a human. I'm looking at this. I'm trying to make sense of it myself. And I also get up in the morning, you know, like when the internet came out, like look what's happened with social media. Like we've gone a whole gamut. And I think this too is going to have a journey. So to your point about anchoring, I think when you were saying that, for me, what I anchor on is like parking my own personal, like I'm sure I can sit down with each of you and hear what you think about AI and what's happening. But at the fundamental, to your point, at the core is a shift and transformation. And I just want to be on the forefront and support this transformation. And almost today it's AI, it's big, but 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it could have been like all of a sudden we're going to the cloud. What's that mean? And all these young people, they want to have autonomy in the workplace and work in open work environments. I think it's just keep going back to this idea. Even the work I do, the truth is, if I ran surveys 20 years ago, I'm sure I'd hear different things than I hear today. It's what's the zeitgeist, what's happening today, how are people feeling, how are we thinking about this and crafting the right culture in the right moment. And I leave space if I don't know also. It's just, I want to be there at the forefront with organizations saying, data's coming in, let's adapt and adjust fast, because I do believe the companies that do that, and much faster than we've ever seen, are going to be the winners. So I think I just hold different things in different places. Like we can have the conversations and all our different opinions, but what I do know is true is change is happening. And if you work in culture, it's helping people through change and, you know, manage the anxiety. Let's park it. Let's talk about it. But let's get back to like, what do we know? What can we do? And how do we lead the ship with a lot of people that count on us in the right direction? And so I just kind of tease them apart. And that probably could have been the same thing 20 years ago. How do we shift to this new thing? So when I work with organizations, my grounding is, aside of all of it, we are going through change, and how do I support and help humans along the way? Because I do believe, I mean, I work with orgs, but in the fundamental, help the world work better by improving the places we work. Like, I do believe if we do this well, we impact lives, that people are happier. And I just get back to, that's what grounds me in all of the noise that's there.
What grounds me? Ooh, I think one of the things that has helped me through this, and I got a whole story to share, we're not gonna get into that, but we're human. And I feel like storms pass, they go. I always just remind people of, you are so much more than the title of your job. Like it's just fundamentally think about, I'm not going to be on my deathbed thinking like, oh shit, I should have got Claude and program AI. Like, that's not what I'm thinking about. It's going to be thinking about, what impact did I do? How do I make others feel? Did I spend time with my family and friends? And I can get that from a place of privilege right now. But I think the reality of getting centered on why you are here and why you matter, like, let's just start there. That's kind of hippie stuff, but I firmly believe that. Because at the end of the day, people are going to look to you for leadership, for guidance, and not to overcompensate for their emotions and feelings, because you need to hold space for that, but remind them that the storm passes. This country, this world has been through craziness, and yet we're here on this stage. Look at the diversity of this, okay? I think that is my focus. So I'm always on the North Star of what matters. When I'm stressed, I think about my son, I think about my shoe collection, whatever that may be. But I also want to say, how can I add value to somebody's life? That gives me fuel. And sometimes that actually led to jobs, real talk. So taking the stress out of how am I going to focus on my next job opportunity, it really is getting back to a little hippie stuff of saying, like, why am I here? Like, what purpose is this serving me? Now, you can't do that every time, because we obviously want to get back into the business of making money. But I think sometimes you have to be reminded of just this moment of time, and it will pass. But also, how are you able to solve problems and hold space for your team and family members when they need it? And then for them to hold space for you when I need a shoulder to cry on or vent or that kind of situation. So that's not a strategic business leader answer to give you, but you can clearly tell that I'm not a typical business strategic leader to go to on that. But I do think we can have both of these things and be able to succeed. So that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, we got lots of
I
questions.
know. Let me
Okay.
wrap up my answer.
Y'all tell me, who are we calling
Jeez.
next?
Back there.
Okay.
Okay, so I feel like I've seen this a lot, and it might just be a perception issue, that culture sometimes come out as static. People talk about a lot of external changes happening, but they're like, okay, but why are we not talking about the culture that we've set in the beginning, and why are we not following that? So first of all, my question is, how do you all see culture? Do you see it as static, or do you see it as adaptable? And if you see it as adaptable, what reminders do people need to keep in place as at an individual level, at an organizational level, to remind themselves that culture is adaptable, and what does it even mean with that if it's adaptable?
I think it's adaptable, but you have to have some core strength, like core foundation. These things will not change whether it's 20 years or 50 years, but you have to be adaptable and flexible. So that's my take on it. See, I'm short and sweet.
It's adaptable, but it all comes down to behaviors at the end of the day. Said it best, right? What do you tolerate that you know is saying the exact opposite? So when you show that, that's all it takes. Perfect scenario. Sales rep, 129% of plan, figuratively leaving a wake behind. Who's going to touch that? Who wants to deal with it? So your CEO turns around and says, that's not okay. Give you a chance, pull up your socks, or you're out. When you send that person out, that's a message to the organization. Believe you me, that will end very quickly. It starts from the top. Leaders lead culture. One thing I can't stand is when it said HR is responsible for culture. Hogwash. Leadership is responsible for culture. We may be experts, we may be stewards. Ownership is the chief cultural officer who's the CEO, not the CHRO. Those statements matter.
I'll give a really interesting and practical answer to that. I was just thinking, when we at Culture Amp said we want to build a community, a global community, if people believe a better world of work is better, is possible. That sounds great. And then we sat around and looked at each other and go, okay, global? We're going to write, there's a chapter in Pune, India. Who am I to tell Pune, India what they need to be talking about organizational culture? But when we did this exercise and we said, well, what if let's get clear on who we are, like that statement, anybody believes a better world of work is possible. Let's be clear on what does a culture first gathering look like? Well, we can't prescribe it. How about we come up with 5 core principles that any chapter can at least share those, and then do whatever you want. But that's the glue in Pune, India, in Melbourne, Australia, and in Chicago. And the third one was what's a good culture first meeting, and what are those pieces? And we said, let's just teach people that and let it. So where I'm going with this is I think what we learned in that, there's 120 chapters around the globe running hundreds of events every year. I think what you hit on, certain things can't, if your values are moving around all the time, you're not gonna have a strong culture. if you're clear on a couple core things and say these, unless we really come together and decide, maybe every 20 years our vision changes, but then allow the culture. No, I'm sorry. When we had 100 people, everybody got to go on an offsite. Now we have 500. That's not our culture anymore, but we're still treating each other with respect, right? So it's like those pinnings allow us to let the rest of the stuff move around. But if you don't have those pinnings, then you don't have culture, because it's just, there's nothing that grounds it. So I think I love what you said. Like, there's a couple core things. The culture doesn't work if people aren't around. You know, what do we believe? Why are we here? Why are we in this together? Because culture belongs between us. And what are the core drivers, those values that will dictate and help us make sure that there's a lot of ways to go about open bank accounts, and Wells Fargo found the wrong one, right? So like, so the question is, what was the culture there that allowed that? You know, like, no culture and just go open bank accounts, people are going to get in trouble.
Other questions that is so important, whether you are a new member joining an organization, or even better, at the candidate level. Ask the question, who designed the values?
Should look at that up on Google.
You could look it up on Google or ask AI, right? I think that will tell you so much. Because if the organization's values were designed and implemented either through a strategic partner or the executive team, that in itself is telling you everything.
Like, I want to see it in action. Talk is, the values on your wall, that's cute.
A lot of the new generation candidates are asking you, prove me. No talk. But the reason why I use that as an example, at one of my organizations, we created an entire work stream. I got to choose all the folks, and we made it up and down across the board. There were 22 members, but we had representation because we said we're going to build the values by hearing from everyone. You're going to be an ambassador for your peers and come to the table. This is not a C-suite thing. That's why I recommend ask a question, because that could say something.
Your phone's ringing.
So we have time for one last question. All right.
Stick around, or at least someone.
Wonder why that alarm didn't go off this morning.
Sometimes.
PM. ADHD, everybody. I owned it. I'll keep owning it.
Hello, my name is Malik. Thank you all for your insight today. My question is going to be surrounded around DEI and culture and efforts in that space. What you all's advice or take on companies, letting go of their DEI efforts, or, cutting back in those areas for culture? And as people leaders in here, how do we manage that? How do we, take on the hat of being an HR business partner, learning and development, DEI, ERG leader, and still showing up for ourselves and our own business units? Any advice there, or any takes on, how we continue to push the effort forward in all 5 of those categories while still being great business leaders and great partners to our stakeholders?
Well, first I'll own, I'm going to answer this question as a white guy, so I know that, and I'm aware, but I work in this world and I think about it and I struggle with it, and how do I try to make sense of it? I think the one thing I just keep coming back to and trying to understand is, like, why does anybody get to, there's all this stuff, there's all this news, and if we take it in and make it real, then it becomes real. What were your values 2 years ago? What are your values today? Like, so maybe it shifts a little bit, maybe there's some changes, but like this story that like DEI is gone. What's gone exactly? What were your values? Why were you building the team you're building? And I gotta say, in all the news, and I'm not saying it's not happening, and maybe it's a self-selected group, because I work with companies that have chosen to like listen to their employees. I'm inspired every day because they're still putting these questions in there. These DEI questions, are using segments of it in their engagement surveys. Like, we're not gonna run a full DEI, which most companies didn't, but can we get 5 of those questions and put them on our engagement survey? Almost every company I'm working with, and I'm not saying I work with every company, but it's just like boots on the ground, inspired by these organizations that do still care, and that the story that we're hearing in the news is not always what we're seeing. We get these big stories about, or the return to office, and look what Amazon did. That was a way to reduce. I mean, and I've talked to people about this that know it gets put into the stories machine and gets said, see, return to office. They're playing a game at such scale that was about reducing staff without saying we laid people off. Everybody's got to be close.
Middle management level, it was in the article. If you read right into it, you saw 15% was the count that
and they didn't have to answer about layoffs. So I'm just saying, be careful, and let's not let, and again, I know where I'm coming from, but sometimes I feel like it wins when we buy into the story versus all of us are out there. Let's push our leaders. What did you value then? What do you value today? And how are we still living it? How are we going to package it? How are we going to talk about it? Do we care about people? Do we think diversity is the way forward in our culture? Because a whole bunch of the same people don't really get an organization very far. So all I know is I'm inspired by some of the companies I'm working with, and I'm constantly pushing on. Let's not get into a word. Let's get into what are your values? What do you believe in, and how do you build that organization around it? And I'm looking forward to hearing what you two have to say, because I also know that I don't know a lot.
You know, a fair bit. The reason why I was smiling when you were asking this question is because you just listed off everything that that one position's doing, which happens to be you. So on that, you know, kudos to being Superman, because you certainly have a fair bit ahead. It is challenging. There's no right real answer, right? I say that at the end of the day, it's not so much about the diversity or the inclusion. We have always focused on wanting to be part of a community or a group or a company where we knew that we belonged. And belonging has so many different definitions. And I still remember, even as we all have gone through it at some point in time, when you go through bias learning, and I call it learning, I don't call it training, I call it learning. My aha moment was, wow, yeah, one of our members may be a single parent. So, you know, when a single parent says, by the way, I need to leave at 3:30, there's a reason for that. It's not because I don't have anything to do. Where we are today goes back to what you said. Are we saying that we are different? Are we saying that we don't want to do things because we have this thing that at some point in time we were just saying we're all? Long way of saying it, basically, it really comes down to what are we looking to do? Why is this mattering to us? And if it does matter to us, and this is the part that becomes a bit bold. If we say that we want to be reflective of the communities that we work in, then are we saying that we also want to be reflective of the cash we are making? Because last time I checked, there's not a dedicated gender or a dedicated race that only delivers the cash to the company. And that kind of gets people, especially when you're in leadership teams and you're having these discussions, I'll make those comments. And the reason why I made those comments is to get that point across. If we are saying this matters to us, then we need to continue on, because we are not doing it just for the sake of it. We're not doing it because it's a fad. I'm also grateful that I happen to be in an organization where the CEO firmly believes in this stuff, and he proved it last year by promoting 4 women to the executive team. Because when we walked in, there were none. So that matters, and I think that it goes back down to, at some point in time, you have to look at the values and say, do I want to belong here? And if I don't, take it upon yourself and go search a place that's going to allow you to do what you need to do. And we are going to see more and more of this. Attrition is already up there. It's already up. It was forecasted for 25 to go up. Organizations are most likely hitting attrition well into the 20 percentiles, certainly by the half of the year. People are making statements, and it's not only going to be about comp anymore. That's my take.
All right, y'all. I'm the former Chief Talent Diversity Officer. So I have a lot of experience in this space from both sides. There is a solution to this, but no one wants to do it. Systemically, we need to fix the issue, but no one wants to do it. This is only a real issue, really, with race and LGBTQ status. Let's be honest. We can talk all day about how we want to hire more female leaders, but the moment you put any other equation into this, it's a problem. I'm sorry. So if we're going to really talk about DEI, we need to include all the components, the caregiver, the veterans, whatever identify that you are in that category. But no one wants to talk about that serious issue. That's okay. I think one of the things that we need to realize is, what was your company doing today and what were they doing before 2019? Miss me with anything before that. A lot of it's performative. It was on the bandwagon. We're going to do all this stuff. And the reality is they did not believe it. Some companies actually did and have been doing it. So that is Teedra's take on it. But I think that this is an opportunity right now. So when I came into that role, the first thing I did is I did not want to just own the DEI office because I'm like, I'm not going to be on the island talking about with no resources, no investment, no accountability to the leadership. I said, we have got to build this in the full associate life cycle. Every big moment of either a candidate or employee, it needs to be inclusion by design. You need to fill it in those moments, not a separate thing. So that levels the playing field of if you're a Caucasian man, if you are a man, woman, whatever that may be, that experience is inclusion. That's where I think the opportunity that you have is your practice as an HR business partner. It should have already been in it. So I'm going to challenge you to say your HR business partner role should have that already in it. You shouldn't be held accountable looking at, stats and all that good stuff, but how you develop talent, how you hire talent, when you're talking about coaching, DEI needs to be embedded in it. And that conversation needs to happen at the executive level. The problem is you may not get the support that you're going to get right now because no one wants to have the courage to talk about it. It's job security, and that's okay. Doesn't matter what you call it. The work still is going to continue, and we're going to keep going on. I hope that's inspiring. Don't give up. Just keep doing it
Yeah.
and hire the right people.
I mean, the work has gone through so many iterations.
That's what it's called.
The first ERG was formed in 1970. This work is not new, right? It's always gone through different iterations. So to your point, it really is about, do your values match in the first place? Are your values consistent? Do they show up in the programs? And if you are doing right by that, equity and inclusion will be a byproduct.
And be honest, don't go get a group of women to go solve a problem that's actually not the women.
And
I don't need to be programmed again. I don't need to be developed again. That's not the issue here.
Well, and hiring should be after you've done the work around inclusion and equity. I think that's another piece.
You're not going to hire your way out of this. That's not the.
You're not going to town hall your way out of this either.
So what I would love is I know there were a lot of questions. So we have 10 minutes left in the event. I would love if the panelists don't mind actually, kind of networking. I believe so. There should be. Yes. We've got a few cups. It might be a mad dash to. But yeah, please connect with each other. Reach out to me if you didn't get a chance to connect with people. Would be happy to connect you as well. But round of applause for our incredible panelists.
I just,
on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was gonna second that. Please, I'm not here, all the time. So this is my opportunity. We're together. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and that starts an open communication. I'd love to just stay in touch, share ideas. Remember what we said, we need each other. Let's build these communities. And, so please connect with me or come up to me. I'll give you my little code, but I'd love to stay connected and, yeah.
Same here as well. Again, I'm part of Chicago, so I'm around as well.
I think I'm the only Teedra LinkedIn, so hopefully.
I want to say one more thing. I'm here, I've been talking about this journey I've been on, but as I started it, I was really grateful that somebody I worked with for 9 years at Culture Amp, Will Werhane, who's in the back, has joined, and he's here also. So it's really special just to be here, to have a partner, somebody that has done this work as well. So if you get a chance to say hi to Will, please do. But just thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. Oh, and thank you for our host.
Our host.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
I gotta protect my brand.